It's the time again for Powkiddy. We have seen Powkiddy a lot here on the channel. They have been releasing many devices throughout the year. Only I cannot really put my finger on it, how it comes to the overall quality and the design and everything, because there's always something different with those guys. So in today's video we're going to be having some kind of a legendary device, or actually the V90 was one of those clamshell designs that we reviewed many years ago, but now they have an improvement for just an improved version. However, when it comes to this particular model, they're a little bit late to the party, because many other companies already released clamshell designs, and those were pretty good, or at least most of them. And some had a little problem with the hinges, but some of them were pretty cool. However, I'm excited to check out the V90s, and with the toilet paper manual deluxe that you don't need to wipe your butt with, because you're going to get paper cuts in your butt. This is a quick explanation about how everything works, but most of the time there's not a lot of information that is actually useful. So in here we're having the Powkiddy, and the Powkiddy, let's get this thing out. It comes kind of a variation of colors. So let's see. Oh man, they put a sticker on it. The point is, we're having over here the black edition. Today we also have yellow, black and white. I think this is red, or yeah, I would say brown, but okay. This is red, and the gray edition. The gray is most of the time, let's say a retro look device, but this is kind of cool. So this is one translucent back. Ooh, this is like looking really nice. So in here we're having the SD cards, and not every company will give you, and let's say at least a decent enough, let's say when it comes to the card. Let's see a PLY, or what it's called. I am not familiar with this particular brand. 64 GB of storage. Sometimes they will give you like these brandless things, but on both sides we're going to be having a micro SD card. We on the left side are having volume control. I'm very glad they actually stepped away from all of those, let's say, combination keys to adjust the volume. Some of them you can still do it through the software, but I love the physical preset, the on and off. At the back we can replace the battery. You can just remove the cover fairly easy and replace the battery. 3000 milliamp, that's what we're getting in the inside. So with these two newer devices we're getting shoulder buttons, or at least, yeah, shoulder buttons, I call them, like that. And you can see there is a little bit of a height difference, and if you're going to be looking at this angle you can actually see that it's pretty cool, because if you're going to be holding the device they're still way easier actually to touch. That's one of the many improvements. And when it comes to, let's say, the mechanism, the clamshell, it feels absolutely smooth. So this is actually the way you can just play. You can actually bend it all the way to back, but it doesn't stay there. So don't even going to be needing to do that. So, but this is absolutely the bare minimum when it comes to, let's say, just the controls you're getting, but this is just going back to the basics. There is no analog stick, not at all. Some even have two of them, but this one doesn't have any of them. So we just have a D-pad, and me as the D-pad fetish guy, I love D-pads. I am very happy that I just have a D-pad in this position, because I just always play with a D-pad, or at least most of the time actually playing games. But the first thing I noticed is that the D-pad itself, this is going to be touching it. It does have like a very nice touch to it, but you can see that how deep it goes. That was like the same. That is kind of interesting. Like it's very like responsive, or at least that's what I've noticed. But if you're going to be looking at the way how it feels kind of weird, and I can tell you the D-pad is disappointing in my case. So the ABXY button, so the touch itself, it's quite nice. They went for membranes that have like not a lot of feedback. Over here the button, there's more like map to, let's say, menu whatsoever. Okay, so let's boot it up. Let's hold the power button for a couple of seconds, and let's do a quick overview of the menu. It also has a rumble motor in the inside. Actually, while booting up, you can just feel it. So when it comes to the design itself, I love the clamshell designs. But let's see if this thing performs. Audio-wise, there is only one speaker over here. And man, boot up takes forever. Come on, Powkiddy, you can do it! Ah, there we go. But let's do a quick look into the menu and everything else. Okay, one thing I need to do is like remove the screen protector. Let's see if I can actually do that. Okay, that's much better. So, but when it comes to the menu, let's press start over here. So it's running on Bottasera version 42. We're having game settings. We can get into all of the settings, and that is absolutely convenient if you do need a little bit of an updating, or you just want to mess with the settings if there's something is wrong. But let's see, we're having favorites, arcade, MAME, CPS systems, MSX, PC Engine, NES. When you're going to be grabbing a couple of them, of course N64 will be a problem, simply because these things are like not capable of running every single N64 game. Spoiler, Dreamcast, Neo Geo, the Pocket and the Pocket Color, so PlayStation and PlayStation Portable. So yeah, there is all kinds of cool stuff. One of the things I do notice with the screen they're using nowadays is absolutely that it looks nice. I love it how it is a very thin bezel, and just the overall quality, it's just great, you know. But one of the things that I'm going to be testing out is the audio. Why this thing does have like a tiny audio speaker. Man, this sounds really good. I'll give you like an up close. But let's start off with some testing of the D-pad and some arcade. I already mentioned before that the D-pad itself, I am not the biggest fan of this, simply because when you're going to be playing, it feels kind of weird. I do have a little bit of a resistance, is important. So you can see the dashing, everything, it's okay. But so far everything seems to be working fine. Pressing all of the buttons is working, but I am not the biggest fan of the shoulder buttons because I need to get used to it. But D-pad wise, I can do all of my moves. That is not going to be the issue, but it's just a very strange loose feeling that this thing actually has. So this is not going to be my favorite D-pad to play, but it is actually good enough to actually just play some fighting games. But we can just play the old school stuff, 8-bit, 16-bit, and of course the arcade. And the games look just amazing on this. What is also kind of funny is that if you're going to be just doing side-by-side comparison with many different devices with the same kind of screen resolutions, you will always see differences. The same if you're going to be the store and just looking into what kind of different televisions we can just buy. And you know, we always find these differences with screens, but you know, out of the box, I'm quite surprised how good it looks. Oh, I already died with one shot. Okay, this game is freaking brutal. So I actually played this game a lot on the NES. It was a very nice port. There we go. Come on. Oh yeah. So PC Engine is a system we do see more often on these devices, and that's absolutely great because we do find a lot of very nice games like Alien Crush, and I think they also ported this to the Mega Drive or the Genesis, but it was called differently. Can't really recall what kind of name it is, but emulation with these systems is just fine. Pressing select to start will bring you back to the menu. That's as easy as it works. You do have like the thing if you're going to be booting up a game, it will take up a couple of seconds to load up. At first I was thinking it was like freezing, but yeah, it looks absolutely amazing. Moving to some 16-bit. And I think what is absolutely awesome is that these games, you know, with the right resolution and the screens with this new generation of devices, they run really smooth, but also they look absolutely amazing. And the thin bezel really helps with this particular model. Another thing I want to check out how the D-pad is for playing with the beat 'em ups. And again, do notice that the D-pad itself is, you know, it's not bad, you know, but still, I really need to get used to it because it actually has such a long travel and aligns us with the case. It's kind of weird, but when you're getting the hang of it, it's not going to be a problem. Yeah, let's smack those guys. But out of the box, it's just absolutely amazing. But if you're going to be getting into some... Oh, I accidentally bashed into this. But the point is if you're going to be looking into some N64, I just choose the Cruise in the World because that's a game that is actually normally playing quite well. Even if these things are on the power. But let's see what's going on with glitches and everything else. Let's start the game. So far, no weird things going on. One thing you need to take consideration is that we don't have an analog stick, so we're going to be feeling very limited. Let's see if they mapped it out of the box correctly with the D-pad. See, and this is exactly what I mean, you know. And I think there was a trick for getting the analog to the D-pad with a certain construction, but you know, this is not the way how you want to play. No, let's see if it now actually works, but no, this is not going to be working anytime soon. So yeah, this is one of the things I just wanted to showcase, is that is going to be a problem. And there's going to be I think it's going to be happening with a lot of games. So where I think we're going to be having an okay performance with the N64, we still have the same problem. Normally you have like select and Y or whatever to get into the RetroArch at the back end, but that does not seem to be working fine. We can go back to the main menu, but you know, it's absolutely a little bit of a messy. So we need to do some tinkering in N64 to set up the analog / D-pad switcher, what I understand of. What going to N64, you're going to be having some games are playable if you get yourself the D-pad ready to go. And this is actually one of the reasons why we're going to be needing an analog stick with that kind of games. It's also more like a convenient part, but some games are going to be utilizing both of the joysticks or actually the C buttons, and we can just map everything as it should be. So in this case, it's, yeah, if you even can figure out how to map everything like it should be, so we can use the D-pad, it's not going to be the best overall experience. The DS is absolutely an amazing library of games. But if you're going to be looking into this, I am not a big fan of it, with a simple reason. Normally we're needing 2 freaking screens. We can switch actually, so if you're going to be messing with this, you can switch which screen is going to be what position, or you can just switch between the big screen. So that's going to be convenient. So let's say we're going to be racing now. We're just going to be setting everything up, starting the race. We can just switch to this part over here, the top screen, and we can just play the game. We don't have an analog stick, so normally we're having the analog stick set up for using the stylus because we don't have a touch screen. But overall, I must say that the overall performance is quite good. But it is still very difficult to play. And also we can switch between the bottom part if you want to. So configuration-wise, this has been set up quite nice. But let's move on to some other stuff. Let's see if we can reset like that. Yep. So let's get into some Aqua GT, if I'm saying it correctly, with the Sega Dreamcast. Yeah, another great system, and even on this low power chip, we can actually boot it up. I say boot it up. If it's going to be playable, that's another story. But let's see what's going on with this. It's just great to see that we're having now cheaper devices getting able to run some Dreamcast. Of course, like with N64, would not be surprised it's going to be a hit or miss over here. Okay, so we do see some glitches. But let's boot up a game. Let's see if it's going to be playable. It's going to be glitch heaven. So that's one of the many questions, of course. So far, so good. Oh man, you can just hear the starter going on. Playing this game, this looks quite nice. I've been testing a lot of hybrids on there on the N64. Man, if you're going to be now going to the Dreamcast to play this. Maybe it's going to be muting this game, you can actually enjoy, because the audio is freaking annoying. But this is not running full speed. But that is actually cool that we can just play this game. So next up, some PlayStation 1, and yeah, we already have a couple of years now that you can actually play these games without any problem. I still remember the first handhelds that actually had the option to play. So playing some PlayStation 1 is not going to be an upscale resolution, particularly not with these cheap devices. Got the background music. Man, this game had some really funky music to it. But also loading time is going to be way faster than on the original system, with the simple reason we're loading up from some simple SD card. We do still have like loading times. I do wonder if you have like faster loading times with faster SD cards, because now we're just using some cheap Chinese brand, or at least that's what I understand of.
3, 2, 1, go!
Where a lot of games were playable with the D-pad. Actually, most of the games are playable with D-pad so far, I know, so this is going to be not a problem. But again, if you're going to be needing a controller with 2 joysticks, yeah, you're not going to be able to play it on this particular device. where I love they went for one single D-pad, simple construction. The competition went for dual joysticks, and I'm already showcased with the N64. Even though some of the games are playable, it's quite unfortunate that we don't have the option to actually plug and play and just easily play the games. And even if you can swap the D-pad to just the analog stick, they should do something like that and not the consumer. But so far I can play for like an hour or so because this game is really cool, and particularly also the music. But yeah, this seems to be working fine. So let's move on to some PlayStation Portable of some kind, where it's all fun and game that we can actually play some PlayStation Portable, or at least some of the games. I think when it comes to these particular games, it's going to be fun. Okay, let's see if we can actually save, because this is getting really out of control. Because the X and the circle are completely messed up with these emulators sometimes. I don't know if it's going to be the right button to press. Yep, there we go. But so far so good. I must say that I'm surprised, but these games are not made for a screen like this. Sometimes you do cheat to fill it up, but we do have like two massive black bars. But it seems to be, I don't know if they implemented some extra cheats or let's say frame skipping, but this seems to be working fine, man. This is really nice. And take note that this is like a simple two-dimensional game. But I think I cannot get into... Oh, there we go. We can actually get into the emulator this time. So let's see what's going on. So let's see what it did. Aha! Frame skipping. They added two times. That's the reason why it plays or looks so well. Okay. But we can also make a quick load, quick save there. So I was not expecting to run this on full, let's say, speed, because these devices are like really on the power. But it's absolutely interesting to see that they managed to get something to work on this. But if you're in a list and you just want to search for a certain game, that is possible with just simple pressing a button. However, I think navigating of this, let's say everything. So let's say by pressing Y over here, I want to search. Okay, I need to press the right button here. We want to search for the game Gator. Oh crap, I messed it up. It's the same with the D-pad. Man, typing is really annoying because the D-pad is so loose. Yep, I'm complaining about the D-pad a lot in this video. Ah, that was the one I was searching for. Tailgater! But if you're going to be playing some other old school games, this is going to be a lot of fun, because this is going to be absolutely cool. Hey, they implemented a bezel for the Game Boy to get the perfect resolution, or at least the resolution, and compare with the screen. But that's kind of cool. Oh, we can actually implement the frames per second. But that part was not working with every single emulator. So playing the simple games, I think this is going to be a lot of fun. But if you're going to be looking into the high end, yeah, it's cool that they added this, but it's not going to be the ultimate device to play with then. So it's really cool they brought back an old friend. Absolutely, rise from your grave, you can say that, because man, this hasn't been a very long time I've reviewed the other one. The V90s is absolutely a very cool piece of equipment, but with all of the combination of the different clamshells, is this something you should actually pick up? Of course, you are the only one who can actually decide about that. It's such a cool device with a lot of potential, but also a lot of limitations. Thank you all for watching. Consider subscribing, hit the little bell, and it would be great if you subscribe to the channel.